We did see some bad practices. One guy handed his business card to somebody and they handed it right back and made him take a picture with his face and the
Oh
business
yeah.
card
I
in the
was like,
picture.
man,
Oh,
that's a lot.
it was,
I,
it
I
was
get it.
right. I totally understand the methodology of what they were trying to accomplish. I feel like it was bad practice.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Gun Rack, SDI's podcast on everything firearms. I'm here with Steve. How's it
Hey,
going, Steve?
Christian. Doing wonderful. I finally unpacked my bags from SHOT Show, only 2 weeks late. How about you?
Well, I went straight to a vacation right afterwards. Well deserved, because I work so hard and I'm the best at it. And I'm also the most humblest. So we're going to be talking about SHOT Show, but we also got the gang with us. We've got Owen, Talon, our two grads that helped us out at the booth and beyond. And then we have Bart Miller, Firearms Specialist, and Rick Casner, Program Director for the Firearms School. How's it going, everybody?
It's going
Good,
good.
thank
Good.
you.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. What are some of our initial thoughts on SHOT Show? How did it go? Rick.
Well, this year was a little bit more tame for us because, well, as far as the administration for the firearms school, just because we didn't have the same running around that we had in years previous, because just the week after SHOT Show, we launched our new program. So we were focused on that launch more than gaining relationships and, talking to vendors, things like that. We still did a little bit of that at SHOT Show, but definitely our main focus was that launch the next week.
Rick, I know we talked a lot about it at SHOT Show, but just for everybody watching, can you give us 30 seconds to a minute telling us about the new updates to the programs?
Sure, yeah. So the biggest updates to these programs is that we're doing a lot more hands-on experiences. We are also, and this is Bart's fundamental in this, but we're also launching a lathe program, which is Mac 150, which has been asked for years. So that's extremely exciting. Students won't get into that until this September, but that's an exciting change. But other than that, we went through all our programs and just gave them a big facelift. We added things that were missing. So just kind of filling holes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, hearing you and Bart and Jared talk about it in the booth, a lot of what I heard was well received by everyone at the booth, and a lot of graduates were, oh, shucks, I wish I was there for that. But the new students will have a lot to look forward to. But basically what I heard was more hands-on, more guns. We added the bolt action rifle project to the associates program.
Yep.
We have the addition of the machining course with Mac 150, which includes the lathe work. That lathe is sent to students right to their house. Bart, I think you were probably one of the most popular people in our booth just because everyone was eyeballing that lathe and wanting to go over there and touch it and have you explain what was going to be in the course. So that was cool to see. And it seems like a lot of the most popular things that students loved about SDI programs got expanded on in these programs. And some of the unpopular things, like a lot of writing, was kind of pulled back a little bit in the updated programs. Is that right?
Yeah, we had a lot of interest in the lathe, and one of the things I thought was pretty cool is they're savvy enough to know, well, what are you actually teaching me? And I guess the difference is where SDI has approached it is we're not teaching you how to be a machinist. We're teaching you how to run a lathe and do gunsmith type work, stuff that's applicable, that gives you that traction so that when you sit in an interview and the guy across from you says, can you thread a barrel? You can look him in the eye and say, yes, I can. Can you rechamber it? Do you know how to set headspace? These types of things. We've built that into the program. So it's not just like going down to your local community college and going through a machinist course. I've talked to those guys before, and they know how to operate the machine, but not necessarily how it applies to a firearm. For instance, when they cut the chamber, they'll say, well, I know how to run a reamer. Then we'll get the gun, they'll cut the chamber, but they won't round the mouth of the chamber because the round has to feed out of the magazine. They're like, well, they didn't teach us that in that school. That's a gunsmith-specific task. So those are the things that we focus on, and it gives them a better idea then how the gun works and how the components and everything fit together. It's not cutting to dimension, it's cutting to relationship. So how one part fits another one when we're fitting those threads. What are the industry standards? So those are the things that we teach in that program.
Awesome.
Great stuff.
Owen, Talon, vibe of SHOT Show compared to last year.
Yeah, so this was our second SHOT Show. Last year we were brand new to the scene, and it was overwhelming. Last year we both had the opportunity to go to multiple shows, so kind of felt like this was old hat for us, getting to visit with old friends that we'd made along the way. And as far as the vibe goes, it was similar to last year. Very interesting to see some booths, shrank in size, other booths grew in size. Some booths stayed the same but added new products. Overall, the vibe was positive. There was a lot going on. Obviously your first year is very overwhelming. This year did not feel that way so much. It was a good vibe. You agree, Owen?
You didn't even take that many pictures. Personal pictures.
It's so funny how like booths become landmarks at SHOT Show. So like when like a big booth moves, it's like, oh, what's going on? Like I'm totally mixed up my directions now. Like Real Avid's not right here in aisle, 85. It's in the main hall, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting when people first go to the SHOT Show, or they'll ask about it. What is the SHOT Show? And this is the way that I explain it. Just as the general public goes to retailers to go shopping, this is where retailers go shopping to stock their shelves. They're going in to see what's new, what are the trends, what's the new technology, what's selling, what's different, put in their purchase orders so that they're ready to go later on in the year. So that's just a good way of looking at the SHOT Show from a high point of view.
I think too, it's interesting that, SHOT Show has been in Vegas for a number of years now. And so people get very familiar with the layout. And you have the Caesars Forum, you have the Venetian main level, then the Venetian, what we call the basement or level 1. But it is interesting how different organizations congregate in different places. It's catered, and you also have the suppliers showcase that's on the day 1 and day 2 in a different area. But it's interesting how these, you have your big companies like your Smith & Wessons, your SARS, your Mossbergs, and the Venetian, the main level. And then level number 1, that's where your kind of up and coming companies are, the real innovators are in that. A lot of the, the smaller companies. And then over in the Caesars Forum, like us, it's a different atmosphere over there, a different feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we started in level 1. It's just interesting walking through and seeing that.
Yeah.
There are some big players
SHOT Show
on
for
level
you?
1 too. Some people just like the way that kind of chaotic flow of level 1 is,
Yeah, it is definitely a different vibe.
Yeah.
When my first SHOT Show, we were in level 1. They don't like when you call it the basement or the dungeon, but that's what it feels like. But it is a hustle and bustle down there. You've got these, companies that are either introducing something, it's their first SHOT Show, and they just want to get it in front of anybody and everybody that they can. And so they're hustling. Like Steve and I have talked about other shows where you see the guy on their cell phone. If somebody walks up to them, then maybe they'll talk to them, maybe not. It's not like that in the basement.
One tool on a card table. There's no signs, nothing. Like the guy's sitting there. Like, what are you doing here?
Bart and I we ran into a few people where it's pretty lame. Like, and I'm just saying this for people who are potentially going to have a booth at SHOT Show at some point. If you're sending somebody to SHOT Show to sit behind that table, you got to send somebody who's actually willing to engage with the audience, engage with people, because we ran into a guy that was just like a bump on a log. He did not want to talk. And I was just like, man, for that company, that's just a total waste of money.
Yeah.
Like, you're not selling anything.
It's my 28th SHOT Show. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm about to
But on the
retire.
other hand, something I notice every year it gets bigger and bigger as a SHOT Show becomes more of like a media event, and everyone is fighting for attention. Like I feel like some of the booths this year had gone a little bit more over the top in like their booth decorations, almost like with like zombie themes, or they bring in the big tanks and they're just fighting for attention to get people into their booths now,
Sure.
where before it wasn't quite so much like the name and the product brought you into the booth. Now it's like companies are starting to realize, nope, we are fighting for eyeballs as people walk
Yeah.
through the aisles to get them to come in.
There was
G4
2 booths that had drones with guns on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
where are we at?
Yeah, that's our thing. Get out of here.
Yeah, you brought
G4
up
Arms always does that, Steve. They have a really good setup. They always have like actors portraying different things. They've done Willy Wonka, they've done Star Wars, they've done it's like every time I'm always excited to see what G4 Arms is doing.
All right, I'm going to let Owen talk now because Owen hasn't had a chance to speak because you guys keep talking over him. Owen, what booth stood out to you, or what booths?
To
Don't
go
worry,
back
I'll
in your
take care of
first,
you. I'll still talk over you also, but I'll take care of you.
to go back to your first question, I think I agree with Talon. The vibe was the same, but it felt like we were a lot more focused this year. So last year I think we were on the SHOT Show app like every 5 minutes looking up booths and stuff. And this year it was a lot more controlled chaos versus just chaos. Regarding like booths and stuff, I think this year I saw more booths that were ginormous with companies that I had not heard of.
Like who?
I can't remember them because I've never heard of them. But there was a
There was
booth
this one company there called Glock that had a huge booth.
Yeah,
I've
I've never heard of it.
There was this ammo company that took up like, it was across the bridge, and it took up like, it had to have taken up 10% of that room, and it was an ammo company, and it was, I couldn't imagine how much they spent on the booth, but the entire booth was pretty much empty, except they just had showcasing different ammo and stuff. And I'm like, that's crazy. That was the first impression I got from it. So it was just more companies that it like Talon said, companies got bigger and then companies got smaller. I think Bear Creek Arsenal's booth this year was way bigger than last year's. So
That's
like,
one that stood out to me.
Silent Co. They had one of the really, really cool setups. It was like you were outside camping with they had an Airstream set up and a bunch of picnic tables and fires, and it looked like a redneck trailer park, setup. It was really cool I don't know what it had to do with silencers, but it was a really cool setup.
yeah.
That
I
was
think that
my
was
favorite
Steve's.
booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had branded their energy drinks, and then they were giving away Zyn,
Branded Zens.
Yeah, branded Zins.
Yeah.
It's interesting
Let's
to
do
talk
that.
to some of these companies. If you're a retailer or if you're working for a retailer and you go in and talk to them, it's really interesting to hear some of the companies that I've had really good experience with, and I would talk to them, they would ask a couple of basic questions. And that was, have you heard of us before, or have you done work with us before? Did we respond in a timely manner? What did you think of the product? They're looking for that feedback because it's a competition to them. They want their product to be better, revise it, what works, what doesn't work. And those are the signs of a good company as well. Because if they have good customer service at the show, it's likely then that that's a cultural thing. And it may be like, that may be the tipping point where, instead of going with this optic company or this accessory company, maybe I go with them because they were really friendly and they were taking care of business.
It's funny you bring that up, Bart. A local FFL to where I'm at right now, I didn't realize he went to SHOT Show, and we were talking about it. And he actually told me there's several companies that he went specifically to seek out, and the way they behaved at SHOT Show made it so that he doesn't want to do business with them again. That he was very disappointed with just the answers that they gave him or the service that they gave him. And a lot of people, that's why, small FFLs like his go to SHOT Show is to gain those relationships. So if you have that booth and you're not engaging, or you engage poorly, you may lose customers that way as well.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty of SHOT Show, because you can find an alternative to whatever you need.
Very easily.
Whatever you need. Because there's
it's not
18
only
different types of everything at SHOT Show.
yeah,
Basically.
it's not only a national stage; it is literally a world stage because they have companies coming from all over the world there. So yeah,
the real test
point.
is how is their customer service on the last day of SHOT.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah.
Well, I can say, even from SDI's standpoint, when we're looking for vendors to supply firearms for our programs or whatever, we've run into the same issue. I mean, back when we were smaller, some companies didn't want to give you the time of day because they thought they were high and mighty, big, way bigger than you. And then SCI is bigger now. And those companies that actually worked with us, we're still working with them. And it's a good relationship that we have with them. So you start to build that. Just relationships are just super important. Bart and I we visited the Climber booth. The Climber reamers and headspace gauges is a company we worked with for a while. And actually Jared McNeely, who's the vice president, he also has worked with them in years past at other companies. But Climber's been coming to the SHOT Show for years. Prior to that, they were working in the auto mechanics world, and they would go to those shows, and it was just very different. But then they came over to SHOT Show, and with firearms people, a handshake, it still means something. Yeah. If you give your word on something and you shake hands, that's a contract. You're going to do it. So, and that's what
Rick,
he said, and that's how I feel too.
Rick, I'll add on to what you're saying of not only have more people seen or heard of SDI, I feel like every year at SHOT Show, but I feel like this year, more companies have employed SDI graduates, and now their SDI graduate that works for them is recommending, oh, you should go check out SDI. And I also can't tell you how many times I just stopped at a random booth because something caught my eye and just started talking to a random person that was working that booth. And they told me they were an SDI graduate. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, what are the chances of just me stopping, talking to this person, and they're an SDI graduate? It's like, that happened to me several times over the course of SHOT Show.
Well, and there's so many times too that again, Bart and I are walking over the floor and we stop by JP, and a guy that we know there named Dustin. He's like, hey, I need to hire two gunsmiths. How do I go about hiring and I only want your gunsmiths. I don't want any other gunsmiths. I only want yours. And that was a huge
change this year that I noticed from last year. Last year, we were kind of focused on finding grads. This year, it was like a lot of businesses were coming up to the booth to leave their card for those people to say, hey, I need two, I need one, I need somebody that's good at this. That didn't see that as much last year. Mostly talked to grads last year. We still talked to a ton of grads this year, but we talked to a lot more businesses looking for gunsmiths this year.
Yeah. So shout out if you're an SDI grad or going to be. The last day of SHOT Show is the best day for you to come, because that's when we're getting approached and people have more time. The big companies or small companies, they have more time to talk because they're not doing as much business that day. So that's more about relationship building that day. Shout out to our grads. If you need a job, if you're looking at getting hired in the industry, SHOT Show is a good time to do it. All the companies are there.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point to lead to my next question then. What is your guys' opinions just walking around SHOT Show this year of how you feel like the industry is doing? Like, is it in a slump? Is industry's business as normal? Or do you feel like, oh, something's different this year? It's people are buying more or wanting to grow this year. What did you feel like that was the vibe at SHOT Show?
I think for obvious reasons, suppressors were a huge part of SHOT Show this year. Every single company seems to be coming out with their own brand or version of suppressors. I mean, companies that have always exclusively dealt in firearms are adding suppressors to their lineup, like High Point. We stopped by the High Point booth and they've got a full run of suppressors. It just seemed like, again, for obvious reasons, due to the tax changes and everything else, every company seems to be, adding suppressors to their lineup or pushing suppressors really hard. and a lot of the vendors and buyers, people walking around, were looking for that. I think that's a huge push this year, and we're going to see that throughout 2026 at all of the shows.
One of the things that I think has affected the industry is a lot of the regulations and things. I live in Colorado. Oh boy, they got a bunch of things coming down the pike that are just going to make it harder to own a firearm, but it won't make it harder to own accessories. And that's where you'll see retailers go in and say, I may not sell as many guns. How am I going to pay for payroll? How am I going to meet rent? They're going to go through there and they're looking at what accessories can I go through and add. And I think that's one of the takeaways, if you look back of how many companies make accessories, whether that be stocks, grips, hand guards, optics, iron sights, I mean, you name it, it's out there. That's where a lot of that innovation comes from. So those companies do real well. I think the companies, to answer your initial question about, the industry as a looking at the entire industry, I think they're having to sharpen their pencil a little bit, get creative, and apply themselves. And they're out there to earn your business.
Yeah, I think the whole industry has felt what they call the Trump slump.
Yep.
Whenever a Republican gets into office, then the scare, I guess, goes down. And so not as many people are buying firearms or firearm things, related items. But from what I heard from the people we talked to, we're starting to climb out of that. So hopefully we don't go back into it again, but we've definitely in the last 2 years been in that slump.
So here's a tie-in to the gunsmithing program. If people are buying accessories, they got to have somebody to put them on properly. And the other piece is if they're not buying new, they're fixing old. Sort of like cars. If I can't afford a new one, I'm probably going to get my used one fixed. So that's where a gunsmith in a retail store, a gunsmith on staff can help level out that store traffic, offering a service that maybe their competitor doesn't. So there's almost always a little bit of a leveling effect in the industry. You just have to look for it, but gunsmithing is one of them.
Well, we talked about other people's booths. Let's talk about our booth a little bit. So we always have the swag, learn about SDI side, and then we have the studio side, which we do grad interviews. How do you feel the booth traffic was at the SDI booth and the vibe?
I love it when we have our students, our current students and our grads come through. Even prospective students, it's just such an excitement. That's what I feel is we don't have anything at our booth that we're selling other than a service, but you get such excitement at our booth, and I really like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why.
Oh, go ahead, Christian.
That's one of the reasons why, I feel us being in Caesars and not on the main floor, we've done the main floor before, but being on Caesars side, it is a little more calm. The lighting is brighter. And since we are shooting content, it kind of helps that way, unless Talon is just talking so loud on the other side of the booth that you still pick him up. But it just makes for a great experience because you can focus on talking to people, but you can still focus on making content too, especially with our grads, because we did a ton of grad interviews this year. I think probably even a handful more than we did last year. I mean, Owen, what do you think?
No, I think we definitely did more interviews this year. I think the actual setup and format of our interviews came out really well. So I'm excited to see those.
Yeah, because we changed it up a little bit.
Change. Yeah.
What do you like about the change, Talon?
Just the way the new, person that's in charge of doing the media for SDI put together the format of how we're doing the interview. Just fantastic. No, honestly, it felt more intimate when you're talking with somebody that way, the camera, the way they were talking. I think people that watch these interviews are going to feel like they're having that conversation with the grad. The side-by-side is not bad. You still get the same kind of information. This just felt a little bit more directed at the grads. And it was just like you said, we talked to so many. A lot of them were returns from last year, but a lot of new ones as well. And it's always cool to see that they're still doing well. They're still doing good in the industry. That maybe they moved up or changed companies or started their own. We did have one that was kind of exciting. Last year, we talked to a gentleman that had graduated SDI and told us, everybody I hire, I make go to SDI. And then this year, we got to see the proof for that because we had one of his employees come by that says, yeah, I'm a student at SDI. My boss makes me go. And it was cool to kind of 1 year later see that transition from the boss to the employees. And I'm looking forward to the people that watch these videos getting to see those grads and their journey through SDI and afterwards.
Yeah. Shout out Steven and River from what's coming.
It was cool to see
Mech Arms
graduates that were new, and then now they were established this year as well. Last year we saw a lot of people that they had just graduated, and it was kind of like a big picture for them. They were like, I don't really know what I want to do yet. And then this year, a couple of those graduates actually came back, and now they're established. That they have a direction and focus and things like that. So that was really cool to see.
I love meeting the prospective students at SHOT Show or any show. And, the first thing they say, oh, gunsmithing college is great. I would love to be a gunsmith. But man, I don't have time to travel to a, campus and go to school again and park, my car and go to a classroom and then you tell them it's online. They go, oh, it's online. And then it just starts connecting for them. Like, okay, maybe I can fit this into my life. And they start picking up those rack cards. Oh yeah, this is a program I'm interested. I would love to take this course. And then like their wife is with them like, oh yeah, you should definitely do this, or so and so would love this too. But just seeing them like their brain unlock that connection, like, oh, I can do this all from home while I still have my job and not have to shift everything in my life to go back and learn this skill and this trade. I love seeing people like put that together. This is something you can do.
My favorite is the mom or dad that like learns about us and is like, my son does nothing except play video games and play on like tinker with his guns and all that stuff. And we're like, I'm going to take this, this, and this. I'm like, yeah, sign him up, give us a call, so.
I think a neat transition story we have is Carl, who we're familiar with from other videos that we've done. Carl, last year at SHOT Show, decided he wanted to attend SDI. Then last year at NRA show, we met him as a student. Then this year at SHOT Show, we met him as a grad and already established in the industry. And that transition from last year to this year and the shows in between for one person, that's incredible, to watch that success story of what SDI has done for him and what, everything that's going along. I just think that was a neat story.
Yeah. And then Carl, I believe, will be our first graduate interview that we're going to be releasing. So you guys will get to learn about his story here pretty soon. Okay. What about graduate dinner? That's
the best. That's the highlight, I think. I love seeing all our graduates together talking. And again, like we've talked about, they're becoming leaders in the industry. And pretty soon, I don't think it's very far away that they'll be front runners in the industry with bigger booths, and I just love that camaraderie, that family feeling when we're all sitting at a family style dinner, and we're all around a table together. That's just the best part.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to hear the different paths they took, but with the same base education. And I really think that's what a good education can allow you to do. It doesn't put you down a narrow path. It gives you a wide variety of ways to apply it. And it was evident during that dinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those who don't know, every SHOT Show and NRA show, we host a grad dinner where we invite graduates. We treat them for a night out. And I'll tell you, this year, what started as like just going around the table for introductions, we're supposed to be like, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your reason for being at SHOT Show, turned into like everyone standing up and giving like a 10-minute speech almost. It really delayed dinner almost. I was getting really hungry about halfway through.
Especially when you're out doing the camera.
Yeah. But like I said, it turned into everyone just like sharing not only just like the reason for SHOT Show, but like their motivations. And everyone had that real common trait of like that dedication and commitment to being successful in the industry. And not to say that like SDI was the single reason for their success in industry, but I think every single one of them mentioned SDI as a critical part of their success, of that stepping stone into the industry, or giving them that confidence to do something, make it into a business or a career. And I think all of them said, like, they couldn't have done it without SDI. But they're going on to do more in the industry, which was great to see. And then they never stopped the education side of it, of learning something more they wanted to pursue.
Yeah, it's easy to build on a foundation, and I think that's what they all recognized of. Okay, I've got a good variety of education from this. I have a real good base to work from. Otherwise, you're just full of ideas and passion, but you have to build on something, and I think that's what they recognized.
Best part of the meal. What was the best dish of the meal that we had at grad dinner?
The
Dessert.
meat,
I think we had steak. That
the
was
steaks.
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I
steak.
I know it
disagree.
wasn't Talon's favorite dinner, but it was one of my favorite dinners.
I think everyone's lying, because I have the receipt from dinner. And if I had to guess what everyone's favorite part was, I think it was the open bar, the drinks.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
yeah.
Owen partook. I would say I do miss Yardbird's deviled eggs from last year, but the fact that we were able to double in size by going to Chica this year that was fantastic. I mean, last year it was a little more intimate. This year there was a whole side of the table that it was basically like two different halves of the room because of how big it was. Even though it's family style, it was, I think it seated 30 or something like that in there. And so the other side of the room kind of had their own intimate family side versus our side. And yeah, just a really good experience overall. Very much enjoy and look forward to that each year.
Yeah, I sat on Talon's side, and I just felt real jealous of the people sitting on the non-Talon side.
That's not even true. None of that is true.
I was sitting on the opposite side of Talon, and I could still hear his conversation. So
Right.
Just escaping.
Yeah. Empanadas, though, because while we were doing the grad storytelling time, I was working the camera, but I was able to grab some empanadas, shove them in my face. They were like short rib with cheese. Just so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I put
I
three
can
in my
vouch
mouth.
for that.
salad was good.
I saw
I
Christian
wouldn't
holding the
know.
camera. He'd be walking down the table, just like grabbing things as he went by.
Yeah. Dave Miller, who's another Montanan, he ate all of our empanadas, so I didn't get a chance to.
You're gonna throw him under the bus like that?
Right.
Oh
Shout
my
out
He
God.
can't
Dave
defend
Miller.
himself. So, Dave, if you're watching this, you ate all the empanadas.
Yeah.
I'm still mad because you guys made me go out after dinner, and I had an awesome takeaway box of leftovers, and I just lost it.
That was the key difference this year, is that Steve stayed out every night.
He wasn't sick in the
Not every
room the
night.
whole time.
Yeah.
He didn't get the SHOT Show crud this time, which is I somehow survived. I didn't get sick the next week.
Me
I was
too.
good. So, yeah, SHOT
Me
Show
too.
crud did not hit this year.
Yeah, even with Talon, sharing that there was some sort of like super virus lab bust
No,
in Vegas that was tied to
Yeah.
SHOT Show. No one got sick from that.
Anybody at the grad dinner stand out? Obviously we love all the grads that attended, but who from the grad dinner? Obviously, we talked about Carl already. Who stood out to somebody?
Dominic, is that his name? Sat next to Owen. Yeah, he stood out to me. Really kind of clicked with him, both at the booth, at the dinner. Really nice guy. He's also a adjunct professor.
faculty.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool to watch him go from being a student now to being an adjunct professor. So he probably stood out to me as far as people at the table besides Carl or anyone else. So, and obviously, I don't want to bring it up, but my buddy Jacob's wife, Bridget,
Let's bring that, because that's a crazy story. So, we have a graduate. Her name's Bridget. She comes to the dinner. Unfortunately, because of seating, we don't allow +1s. But Bridget stopped by the booth the next day, and what happened, Talon?
Yeah, so it's funny because the day before the dinner, Bridget did ask to bring her husband. And me being a curmudgeon, I was like, no, absolutely not. We told everybody else, no, we're not going to make an exception for this person. The the next day after the dinner, and I sat directly across from Bridget at the dinner. And some of the things she said, she mentioned that she was Lumbee Indian, and I almost brought up the fact that I knew a couple of Lumbee Indians. I did ask where she was from, and it didn't quite line up, so I just left it alone. Asking somebody if they know somebody from their tribe is like asking a soldier if you know Sergeant so and so. It's ridiculous, so I left it alone. The next day we were at the booth, and there was a voice from behind me kind of shouted something from my past. I turned around. I didn't recognize the gentleman that was there. I jokingly say he looks like a homeless guy, because he did at the time look like a homeless guy because his hair was wild and everything else. But it turns out it was one of my best friends that I served overseas with, and everything else. And it happened to be Bridget's husband, who I had said, don't come to the dinner. So that was crazy. I haven't talked to him since 2009. Obviously it was really good. We've reconnected since then, and have stayed in touch, and, been sending, updates on our families back and forth. They have a business now in South Carolina. Just really, really cool to see that kind of crazy connection. Having dinner with, one of my best friend's wife the night before without realizing it was his wife is nuts. Just what can happen at SHOT Show from people coming from all over the country.
Yeah, it was the most touching thing I've ever seen at SHOT Show, because the embrace you two had, it brought a tear to my eye. So
I appreciate that. It genuinely, one of my favorite people. I feel ashamed to have lost touch with him, but glad to have reconnected. So
yeah, SHOT Show, man, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it is.
Catalina
It is
wine
really
maker.
a lot like that as SHOT Show. I mean, it's just. Well, Bart and I were walking through the aisles, and I ran into a guy that I knew years ago, and it's not a connection I made at SHOT Show. It was just back in the past. We went to gunsmithing school together, and I ran into him in the aisles. It really is a small world when you go to SHOT Show. It's not that big, and so connections like that happen pretty regular. It's awesome.
I think it's really important when you go to SHOT Show to try and put yourself out there to meet new people. I know the first night, Owen and I went specifically to a dinner that we knew no one at, and we did that just so that we could expand our horizons, meet other people in the industry. It was interesting. Everybody at that dinner that we went to, it was at Top Golf, was actually from the supplier showcase. And so it wasn't your normal gun crowd of people. It was more like machinists and people that were, building vices and things like that. We had a great time, met a lot of really good people. Have friend requested them on Facebook since. Just getting to know them. I think that's important at SHOT Show, that networking and meeting people outside of your normal company. If you just go to your company dinner or spend every night with the people that you see every single day, you're never going to expand in this industry. And this really, like you said, it's so tight knit and it's so huge. And we say this at every show, that we see people that go from one company to another company at a different show, moving around or elevating and becoming higher up in different positions. So I think it's really important to network, and SHOT Show is really the place to do that.
Yeah.
Well-
And to Rick's point, I think I've met more people this year that were from Louisiana and my hometown, or went to a rival high school or whatever this year than I did last year, or at really any other show, which every time it happened, it blew my mind, because I'm like, somebody kept saying, oh, there's 100,000 people here. And I'm like, well, out of the 100,000 people, like, what are the chances I keep running into people that are from my hometown? And so
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Well, it's the one thing I appreciate about you guys, like Owen and Talon, you're like me. You're not afraid to make friends. You want to legitimately and genuinely talk and learn about the person that you're interacting with. Just think about, you guys have been working for us on the contract side for a little over a year now. How many relationships have you made that you probably wouldn't have made if you weren't going to these shows? And even if you were going to the shows, weren't doing the after networking and during and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, when the show's over, the networking doesn't stop.
No.
like I was flying home from Vegas, and I was Gun Talk Radio guys were like, it was a direct shot to New Orleans, and I was like, you guys are in New Orleans? They're like, yeah, we're like 7 minutes from here. And I'm like, yeah, that's where I live. So it was really cool to, I mean, like Talon can tell you about this. When he was flying to Vegas, he was meeting and talking to people on the plane.
Yeah, I flew in with the Mystery Ranch crew, and I flew out with somebody from another firearms. But the flights in and out are packed with those, especially booths. If you're coming on Sunday, that's when the other booths are coming in. So that's when you're going to meet the company people. And same thing, if you're flying out the day after SHOT Show, you're going to be flying out with the people from those booths. And so since you're flying back to your area, you're going to meet people in your area that are, industry professionals. So yeah, don't just stop just because you're not at the venue.
Not me on my private jet. Not me on my own.
We're going to make the same.
Because I flew out at like 12 o'clock on Friday night. And as soon as I got seated in my seat, I put my headphones on, put my little blanket up, got my little pillow. I was out. Because I know when I landed, Paul, we met at the grad dinner, one of our graduates, like, oh, I saw you on the plane when I was getting on. And he was like, you were already asleep. I'm like, yeah, I was out.
I mean, red eye flights, man. That's what you do. Yeah. And then you wake up, you're at home.
Oh, I was home 7 a.m. the next morning. It was great.
Rested.
Yeah.
Best night's sleep for the whole week was on that airplane.
Okay. What else? What else stood out to you guys that was, about this year's SHOT Show as opposed to other SHOT Shows you've been to?
I was trying to remember the name of that firearm that I showed you, Owen, the kind of most innovative one we saw this year, but we didn't have a chance.
That thing was crazy.
Well, do you remember what it was?
I don't, and I just saw a reel for it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Something with a dragon.
Yeah, something like the dragon.
It looks like the Halo pistol.
Yeah, I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to see it. Whether you like it or not, it's super innovative, very crazy design, very new
lever action delayed system.
Yeah, just completely. And that's one thing I kind of regret not. But you never know when people are unveiling stuff at SHOT Show, they don't put it out ahead of time, or at least some companies don't put it out ahead of time. They're unveiling it at SHOT Show. So sometimes you don't know what you don't see or what you're not going to miss until you're on your way home and you're looking at your, Instagram or your Facebook reels and you're seeing stuff and you're like, wow, I wish I could have seen that. That's really cool, So there's a few of those that I'm regretting having not seen. Likewise, I'm still seeing reels from last year's SHOT Show showing up from like B&T, and I'm like, hey, I held that last year at SHOT Show, and it's stuff that's coming out now. But yeah, I wish I could remember that firearm.
Yeah, that thing was crazy. It had a quick release
out Arsenal Dragon pistol.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the one. Very
quick release comp.
Quite a few reels of it, and it's people are loving it or hating it, but it's definitely new.
I mean, I hate the way it looks, but it's the internals are awesome.
He's on that.
I think it's really cool.
Toolless disassembly.
Yeah.
You said it's a lever delayed.
Yeah.
Blowback then.
Yeah,
probably. That's interesting.
You should look it up,
It's
Rick.
not like anything I've ever seen before. Very, the barrel is in line with the webbing of your hand. It's way lower inside the front of the pistol.
Reminds me of an alien almost, but like it's different.
That's the closest thing I could compare it to is like an alien.
Yeah, and where the optic stays put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing from SHOT Show that I like the most, just because it's like my life right now of wanting to go hunting with it, is I like the suppressor I saw at the Banish booth for their 12 gauge and 20 gauge shotguns. It was like half a suppressor, like the top half. It wasn't a complete circle. It was missing the top half of a suppressor, so just like half a circle. So you could still see down your iron sights of your shotgun, and it screwed in right to your threads for your choke tube, so you didn't need to have a threaded barrel. I thought that was pretty nice.
It's a crazy design. Very neat though.
Yeah, it was very interesting looking for sure.
And you still could insert the choke.
The weight of it made it like still swing. Like you didn't feel like you had a big giant suppressor hanging off the end of the shotgun.
Yeah. I think the choke threaded into the actual suppressor, right, Steve?
So
Yeah.
so you would have the suppressor was using your choke tube threads, and then you
Yeah,
could then add an actual choke onto the end of the suppressors. You could still change out your choke.
that's cool.
Effectively lengthening your barrel, 6 inches or whatever as well. So
which
And
is
it's
Turn it
always
into a
interesting.
nice.
30-inch goose gun.
yeah,
It's interesting that a lot of innovations in product are brought about by innovations in manufacturing, and probably no more so than 3D printing. 3D
Mhm.
printing metal. They can a lot of suppressors you could not machine. It's just mechanically impossible to machine some of these shapes. So
Yeah.
since they can 3D print them now, they can make them proprietary and get the benefits of having those unique shapes and things. That's just one aspect of 3D printing.
Oh, and
Yeah.
it's going beyond just the metals, man. I saw a lot of like stocks and foregrips, all those things are being 3D printed, super ergonomic and lightweight and just crazy materials.
That's the kind of
Very
stuff you see up
futuristic.
in that supplier showcase. That's a lot of those 3D printers. For those of you guys that don't know, the supplier showcase is kind of shot show adjacent. It's like for like they're saying for the manufacturers, if you're making stocks for ARs, these are the people you would go to that would do the injection molding and stuff like that. So you don't really think of injection molding as a firearms industry, but they set up theirs because they're adjacent to it and they can help you out. So if you have a product or something that you're trying to develop, that supplier showcase is the place to attend. And every year, Owen and I now 2 years in a row have barely been able to make it up there and kind of just see it because it's only Monday and Tuesday, and then it's closed by the end of the day Tuesday, and it
Yeah, so
closes
it's like
early on Tuesday.
if retailers are going to SHOT Show to talk to manufacturers, manufacturers are going to SHOT Show to talk to the suppliers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know what was really cool was the the new Rise armament trigger. It had like a 2-pin system that just dropped in and it just locked right in, and then those both depressed and you could just pull it right out. And on top of that, you could change it from a curved face to a flat face on the same trigger, which was really cool.
In a matter
Did
of
you guys
there
do
was a guy
the
that installed that
competition?
trigger in
I
6
did it
seconds.
and I was slow as heck, dude. The guy did it in 6.8 seconds or something like that, and I was at
Yeah.
like 30 seconds just trying to get
Yeah.
it in there.
Yeah. Even 30 seconds is crazy fast for a trigger install. So
Yeah.
like we're saying like, oh, we were so slow because I was like he said, like 27 to 30 seconds or something like that. But the guys that were doing, there were two that did it in sub like 7 seconds. It was like 6+ seconds or whatever to go from the trigger sitting on the table to the action is closed and pulling the trigger in 6 seconds. I mean, what a insane
yeah, and
product.
you see so many triggers at every show, and so you kind of become like, oh yeah, I've seen every one, but this one was pretty cool.
I don't know if I agree with you on that. I feel like every single show, there's another trigger where I'm like, that's obviously the best trigger. And then the next show, I'm like, nope, that's the best. And you walk around, they always have them set up for you to test fire. And, you get a little sensitive to feeling like which ones are better, which ones are worse. But yeah, there's a lot of trigger companies out there that are putting out some very new, very innovative designs, just trying to make everything easier and better for the consumer.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're looking at all these new products, you might look at it and say, I'm not sure if I would ever use that or not. But what you're looking at is either an improvement or a solution to a problem that maybe 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a customer comes in and says, I've got this scope with a huge front, 56 millimeter objective, and I can't get it to fit on my gun. Oh, you know what? In this particular arrangement, maybe I found a base and ring setup that will work, or I need an extra long stock, an extra short stock. You didn't realize it, but you were looking at the solution. At
Yeah.
least knowing that it's out there, then you can go through, look it up, and maybe you can help your customer in that fashion. So just because you can't use it at that moment doesn't mean that knowing that it exists won't help you in your business.
Yeah. And a lot of that kind of stuff that we're talking about is going to be on that first floor of the Venetian. Like it's funny you just mentioned that, but adjustable scope mounts, these scope mounts raised lower, turn left, turn right based off of it's just really funny. That was the example you gave because I grabbed a card from that just for that exact reason. So
Smart. Yeah, that's smart.
What do you, let's so, you're in the industry, say you're a graduate and you're going around grabbing cards. What's your next step? What are you doing with those cards? Because it's a lot of cards.
I think first and foremost, having a pen and writing on that card, like to keep notes or a little notepad or something, because it's so easy to grab a bunch of cards and then you're like, why was I going to talk to this guy? What was I going to talk to him about?
That's why we
So
bring the
unless you keep
notepad.
notes, it's hard to.
stack of them sitting here.
Yeah.
When I get home, I take a picture of them.
Go ahead.
Put them on my phone. I don't have to keep track of them at home. I know that I'm on my phone, and I just take a picture of each one. And if I end up not using it a year later, I can erase them. But at least I know on the front of the card, to Rick's point, why I kept that card. There was something important. But if you take a picture of it, it tracks it for you.
I'm going to purchase one of those. Somebody brought it up, but the books where you slide the business card in one side and it leaves a little section for notes. I'm going to get one of those because my stack of business cards is getting out of control. And like you said, it just knowing what they're for and everything else. We did see some bad practices. Christian and I witnessed some bad practices with the business cards. One guy handed his business card to somebody and they handed it right back and made him take a picture with his face and the business card in the picture.
Man, that's a lot.
It was
I get it.
Right. I totally understand the methodology of what they were trying to accomplish.
Put a
I
face
feel
to a
like
name.
It was bad practice.
It's kind of ingenious, honestly.
Well, there are those electronic business cards that do have the person's picture now.
Yeah.
Talon loves those.
I have those, and I still give my physical business card because nobody's going through their contacts on their phone to look up that link again. So it's cool if you have I've always encouraged Talon to do it because you can embed your YouTube videos, your top performing videos, and since he's a big YouTube star and all. So
yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, Steve. You're one of the biggest reasons that we have the presence that we have here today because of the influencers that talk about us and utilize us. How are the new influencers that we got to talk to at SHOT Show? What were your impressions?
Yes. I mean, it's not every day we get to talk and see a lot of the channels and content creators we work with. Sometimes we're lucky enough we get invited to go to a range day event where we get to hang out with them, and it's not necessarily a work event, but it's always great to see them at a show like SHOT Show. We've added a few new channels this year, like Short Shot Tony, Tactical Prepper, Johnny Q. So for some of those guys, I've only had a Zoom call with them or a phone call where we text back and forth and tell them about programs and share what's new. But coming to the booth, they got to meet not only me, but they got to meet everybody else on the team. And then they got the firsthand detailed explanation on the lathe from the expert Bart, from our subject matter expert. They get to see and learn what students will be experiencing in the programs, even though they haven't been in the course themselves. Now they are better prepared to talk about it. So if someone has questions, then of course it shows we get to see some of the channels we worked with for a long time. Like, man, Brandon Herrera came by the booth. He spent a good 15-30 minutes catching up with us, also meeting instructors, talking to Jared, sharing with what he's hearing from people that watch him. So we get that feedback, and then he gets to learn from us what's new, what's coming, what's happening here at SDI.
And he's not busy at all right now.
Yeah, he's neck deep in a political campaign in Texas.
Yeah. He took a big interest to the lathe too, though. He spent some time over there.
Yeah, because especially for him, and like most of the channels we work with, they're not just YouTube content creators. They are gun guys. And for Brandon's case, he's also a gunsmith, or he has his gunsmithing business in his shop, and guys that work from that do gunsmithing. So it's not just something that he talks about on TV. He's doing it in real life. So putting the two together, I think, helps him out.
Well, let's wrap this up by, explaining why we do all this. Why is SDI at SHOT Show? Why is this important to the school, for our students? And then we'll leave it at that. Bart, why do you think it's important for us to be at SHOT Show?
we can share our passion and help our students. And in doing that, we help the industry and making sure that we raise the bar on the gunsmiths that are out there, the work that they're doing, and just making an impact.
Can you kind of elaborate on that, Rick? So how does us being at SHOT Show help bring up our students?
I think making a presence at these larger shows, when you are a bigger company in the industry, I mean, even if you're a medium-sized company, you need to make a presence at these shows. I mean, and as far as how that benefits our students is it's that constant presence. Hey, SDI is here. SDI is giving out graduates. Like we are producing graduates, gunsmithing graduates who can now work for these companies. So these companies can, put a face to the name, I guess, like many faces to the SDI brand, and say, oh, Christian over there, or Steve over there, or Rick, or Bart, or Talon, or Owen. These are the guys I've talked to at SHOT Show, so I can go and approach them because I need gunsmiths. So if we weren't there, it would really be doing a disservice to our graduates. I think there's a lot of gunsmithing schools that aren't there. I mean, I think there was only one, Trinidad, had a booth that I saw as far as like the actual brick and mortar gunsmithing schools that offer degrees. And I mean, there's plenty of other gunsmithing schools, but it does hurt their students, I think, their graduates not having a presence there.
Well, and then, I mean, you, Bart, Jeff, Jared, and even Erica from Career Services, you guys are like relatively barely at the booth compared to, some of us. What are you guys doing when you guys aren't at the booth?
Yeah. So for us, it's a big deal. Again, 2 or 3 years ago or last year, and then the years before that, a lot of it was building relationships, getting product for our students, walking around and getting ideas for what we can put in classes. That's a big deal. So that was a main focus previous years. This year, the main focus was reconnecting with the relationships we already have and making those stronger. And also talking with our current vendors, and seeing what more we can use that they're producing, such as like Real Avid, Otis, or whatever that might be, whatever company, SAR. But talking to them and saying, okay, well, how are you guys growing? And how could we potentially incorporate that into our curriculum to give our students a leg up?
Just as the industry changes, so does the products that you're working on. I'm always looking at what are the products. Does our curriculum prepare them to work with these products and these firearms in the industry? That's top of mind all the time. If you go back 10 years and went to SHOT Show and looked at the products and the companies that were out there, you'd see a big difference. It happens slowly, but inevitably it changes. You just need to make sure things are current, which is, of course, why we went through and revised the program.
All right. Owen and Talon?
I think it's, from the perspective of the marketing side, finding more people for our partners, finding more partners that can provide discounts or things like that for students that are current at SDI. But also for me, it's really important to visually verify the evidence that people at SDI are becoming successful in this industry. We hear a lot negative people on the internet. You can't get into this industry by going to SDI. SHOT Show is the biggest amount of evidence that that's not true. Just, we've already talked about the grad dinners. We've talked about the grad interviews. We've talked about meeting people at the booths that are grads. I mean, it would be very interesting, nearly impossible, but it would be very interesting to find out how many SDI's grads are there at SHOT Show. It's got to be in the hundreds, that just
grads, current
finding
students.
successful. Yeah, that are finding that success. And then on the flip side, taking that success of what they're seeing and, who knows who we met at the booth this year that we'll meet as a grad next year, at SHOT Show that have that same kind of story as what Carl had, that came to our booth and had that aha moment like Steve was talking about, that go, I can do this online, and then seeing that success moving forward. I just really enjoy that. I enjoy the connecting and bringing them over to Owen's Discord. That's huge. Meeting Discord people. That's one thing we didn't talk about, is meeting people from the Discord that we've, kind of created relationships with over the last couple of years of attending and graduating from SDI, that now we're getting to shake hands with in person. It's all really important part of it.
Yeah. So if you're a troll and you're saying that no, there's no graduates don't get a job, go to SHOT Show, but you probably can't. So because you're not in the industry. So there. Owen, what do you got?
For me, it's very similar. The success stories from our graduates, it's really validating, but not only that, we have so many graduates that are now, established in the industry, which when you're just trying to get your start in the industry, it's extremely intimidating. There's so many different avenues that you can go down. And as we get more and more graduates established in the industry, it makes it easier for our new graduates to, make those connections, or at least have some sort of direction to go towards. And so I think that's why it's really important for us to be there, because every show, we're reconnecting, but we're also making new connections. We're networking more, we're meeting more and more people. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me.
I'd like to comment on something Owen just said, because I think you're spot on. And that is when you go to talk to these companies, sometimes it can seem really intimidating.
Yeah.
But you already have a leg up. You have a common interest, and they're just folks. They're just like you and me. They just have a different job at a different company, but they do share a passion. And if you tap into that, you can open a lot of doors.
And
Good example.
hinging off of that really quick. I'm sorry, Christian, but
Very good.
that's why these shows are so important, because this guy over at this company who just blew you off and was not nice, and that's why it can be intimidating. Well, just go over to the next booth and talk to that guy. Versus if you're in your town and you're trying to go to this gunsmith or this gunsmith, and this gunsmith's not a nice guy, it could be 30 miles away to go to the other gunsmith. So you don't have, you're not able to be as efficient talking to different people. But I mean, everybody's there. So if he's rude, then just go over and give your business or work for another company that's going to treat you kind.
Yeah, reputation travels around the show.
One example that pops out to me is Jonathan, or JJ Pride, Door Gunner 47. Just from last year, he was working his way, taking his holsters to different companies, setting up meetings, but he's also developed that into a social media presence and a YouTube presence. And so he puts out a lot of content, but he has no problem going up, hey, can I do a quick interview with you, talk to you, find out about your product, and sharing, all the information. So yeah, don't be intimidated. Just go up. Everybody wants to see everybody succeed for the most part in this industry. Yeah. So if the SHOT Show is a great place for that to happen. And then especially like on those last couple of days when people have a little bit more time to do that stuff, take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. You think you said it great when you said they want to see you successful. If you're successful, they're successful.
Steve, you got anything?
Yeah. I mean, the reason I think we still go to SHOT Show or any other show throughout the year is that education still remains to be a critical part of success in the firearms industry. Whether it's education of knowing how to use your firearm, knowing the rules and regulations about having a firearm, or having the education of how to repair and maintain your firearms. So I think SDI kind of fills in that third pillar of education of how to build and create and maintain firearms, either for yourself or for other people. So I think SDI as a part of the industry leads to getting your start in the whole firearms industry. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be just a gunsmith. many of our grads are not just gunsmiths. Sometimes they are the gunsmith, but they also are the business owner. They also are the salesperson, or they're the marketing person, or they're taking phone calls and having to do repairs over the phone. And there's so many different things that they went through and experienced at SDI that carries on over into other things that they're now doing in the industry. So you think you may have a goal in mind that may change as you start at SDI, or it may turn into experience later on when the company you're working for, or whether it's your company, has a request or needs you to do something. You're like, oh, yep, I've done that before. I've seen that in the classroom. I can turn that into something I'm now knowledgeable about and put it to practice. So I think the education part is still so important for this industry. No one should stop learning, even if they're already in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Well, if you do want to get that education, go to sdi.edu today, hit request information, top right-hand corner, talk to admissions rep, get all the information you need. They'll talk to you about the financial portion, the curriculum portion, what classes are like. If you have any problems that you might need to overcome with the online format, they'll help you with that too. So if you want to get your start in firearms technology, go to sdi.edu today. But for the gun rack this week, I've been Christian. Thank you, Steve, Owen, Talon, Bart Miller, Rick Casner. And then we'll see you all next time. Everybody, bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Christian.